visited his son's grave every year, alone, hollow, and grieving a boy he never truly knew. But this year, something was different. There was a woman already kneeling there crying, and beside her, a small boy, stacking pebbles on the gravestone. William Harrington, the billionaire, the empire builder, was about to uncover a secret buried deeper than the grave itself. His son had a child, and no one had ever told him. Who was this woman? Why was she crying at his son's grave? And why did that little boy have Michael's eyes? What began as a private ritual of mourning spiraled into a shocking revelation of hidden love, a forgotten family, and a grandson raised in silence. But what if the tragedy of his son's death wasn't an accident? What if someone made sure Michael never came home? As William digs deeper, he uncovers betrayal, corruption, and a conspiracy that reaches into his own company and threatens the life of the only family he has left. Will he fight to protect the boy he never knew? Or will his past failures as a father come back to destroy everything again? This isn't just a story, it's a reckoning. And it begins at the grave. William Harrington's boots crunched on gravel, the noise too loud in the stillness that swallowed the old cemetery. The sky overhead was bruised with gray. Rain would come soon, he could feel it. He hadn't come for grief so much as duty. A decade ago, he'd buried his son Michael here. He'd muttered plastic goodbyes, placed white roses, and walked away until the next year. Year by year, he'd come alone. He expected silence, the rustle of wind through stone, a neat circle of absence. But today, the grave wasn't empty. His breath hitched. 3 gravestones down, a woman knelt, face buried in her hands. Her shoulders shook in muffled sobs. Next to her, a little boy, no more than 7, arranged pebbles with deliberate care. The simple act of stacking stones spoke of a contact deeper than grief. Of all the worlds he'd built, this one could have been easily ignored. But he noticed. When she looked up, sorrow froze the world. She had his son's dark curls. And the boy, his features, his eyes. William's breath shuddered. The child, had Michael's eyes, hazelnut brown flecked with bewildered light, a gravitational pull he'd never anticipated. He stepped closer, but the gravel crunched, and she startled. "Who are you?" she whispered fiercely. He raised hands placatingly. He wore a dark suit, not an invitation to intrusion, but a statement that he belonged. "I'm William Harrington," he said, the name he never imagined shouting across a cemetery, but it came out with rough finality. She froze. The world contracted to a cold silence. "Michael's father," he added, though the words felt like a lie. Tears blurred her eyes. The boy looked between them, small brows furrowed. "Mama?" he asked softly. She rose abruptly, protecting him, a barrier of body and defiance. "You have no right." He nodded. "I know, but I think," he swallowed, "I think that boy is my grandson." Her eyes widened, furious and vulnerable. "Lucas, don't call him that," she hissed. "He's not yours." "Does he even know Michael?" William asked gently. She shook her head. "He calls him Dad. I told him he's in heaven, but—" She pressed her lips into a thin line, as if she'd been trying not to collapse for years. Lucas blinked, marble still, pebbles forgotten. Neither spoke. Rain threatened, heavy and gray. William knelt near Michael's headstone. He traced the engraving with trembling fingers. Michael Harrington, beloved son, 1990-2015. "I didn't bury him alone," he whispered. "Not really." She watched him. "You weren't here after that. You never came back. Not for his birthdays, not for the funerals." "I came," he said, "but I came alone." His eyes cut to hers. "I never left a stone." She shook her head. "Then, why now?" He closed his eyes. "Because today, I found a family I didn't know I lost." The breeze lifted her hair. The first fat raindrops fell. He stepped toward her through grief and fear. "I don't expect forgiveness, but I want to understand, to know who he is." Lucas sniffled and took a small hand away from his mother's skirt. The moment twisted with possibility and burden. She faced him. "You can't just walk into my life and call him grandson. He's healing." He crouched, drawing level with Lucas. You don't have to trust me, but I'll do whatever it takes to earn that trust. Lucas stared, uncertain. Then he looked down, picked up a pebble, and laid it on the headstone. William felt a flicker of relief and pain. That pebble, it was the first one he'd placed in years. It echoed of choices unmade, of silence that weighed too heavy. She watched him work, his tears gleaming. Without a word, she stepped forward and placed a hand on his shoulder, a gesture that trembled with all that had been unsaid. When they stood bone-cold and soaked, he didn't know what would happen next. He had offers in his mind, DNA tests, reconciliation, and anger, from board members, from family. But here, on sacred ground, the only authority was grief. A thunder rumble rolled across the valley, heralding a downpour. The camera of memory closed in on them, the billionaire standing across from the single mother, a child together at a grave. Their breaths were silent prayers. As they turned to walk away, Lucas stopped and looked back. He whispered, "Are they going to be okay?" She sighed, tears breaking like dawn. "I don't know." William took a breath. "But I promise we'll try." Could he really become a replacement father? Would she ever let him back into their lives? Was he brave enough to face what Michael never could? And who, if anyone, pushed the car that killed Michael that night? These are just the questions brewing beneath the surface. Watch to find out how one billionaire's grief becomes a catalyst for redemption, and what secrets lie waiting in the next chapter. William couldn't move. The sky cracked open, fat raindrops splashing against the gravestone. He watched as Emma, this stranger, her hands going slack at her sides, rose unsteadily. Lucas wrapped his arms around her ankles, looking up at William with confusion and fear. William tried to advance, but the gravel against his boots felt like weights on his lungs. The world had gone sideways. He, Michael's father, stood before a woman whose grief he'd never heard of until seconds ago. A woman who held his son's grandson. I'm Emma Marquez," she stammered, voice breaking like brittle glass. "I'm so sorry. I didn't even know. I just wanted to visit him." She clutched Lucas tighter. The boy's eyes locked on William, brows furrowing. "Papa?" he whispered. Shock traveled through William, sharper than lightning. His son's son. Had Michael been thinking of this moment? Emma took a shaky step forward. "I know I shouldn't have come here." She paused, tears tracing clean tracks down her cheeks. "But we needed to lay a stone." Her eyes flicked to Lucas, who held the pebble against the gravestone. "That's all." William's heart roared. Everything in him demanded answers. But everything else, from grief long buried to corporate duties, told him to step back. He swallowed, pain striking like ice. "Why, now," he managed. "Why did you bring him? Why did he come here?" Emma bristled, anger mingling with grief. Because Michael told me to." That shook him harder than rain in July. Michael told her? William staggered. She swallowed. "He was alive when he told me. He told me to come here with Lucas. After. William tried to process it, his chest caving in. Michael. Michael had planned this moment. Emma continued, trembling. He knew he wouldn't last. He knew something was wrong with the experiment, with the heart monitor. I begged him not to travel. He said he wanted our child to feel seen, that he wanted this." She faltered. The blood in William's veins stiffened. Experiment? Heart monitor? Our son was sick. He thought it had been stress, exhaustion, a car accident. Never a deeper warning. He wanted to shout, to demand clarity. "Tell me everything," he said, voice strangled. Emma stiffened. She fetched Lucas's hand, holding it like a lifeline. "I'm finishing what Michael started. I have his records, his lab notes. I'm trying to protect Lucas so he doesn't fade like Michael did." Her conviction snapped through the storm around them. William looked into her eyes and released a breath he didn't know he'd been holding. This wasn't guilt or shock. This was purpose. He knelt beside Lucas. Smoke of revelation burned in his chest. "Lucas," he said softly, voice catching. I'm William, Michael's father. I'm your grandfather." The boy stared. His cheeks grew pink with confusion. He glanced at Emma, then back at William. Emma nodded, tears shining. "He knows," she whispered. "He came here because he wanted closure." William touched Lucas's shoulder. "Would you like to go somewhere warmer? Somewhere you can talk?" He gestured toward his car. Emma hesitated. The clouds parted, a shaft of gray light, and Lucas took a tentative step forward. Emma watched, wordless. The world waited. It's been 20 years since William felt something like this. Pride, wonder, fear, hope stir him alive. They walked toward his car in uneasy silence. William reached into his pocket, found a clean tissue, and handed it to Emma. She accepted. Lucas climbed into the front seat of William's car. He pressed his palm against the glass. William opened the driver's door with a hand unsteady. Once inside, he started the engine. The interior lights glowed softly over Lucas's grave-clean hands. Emma sat in back, distance between them. William watched both of them, unknowing whether he should fill the void with stories or let silence settle like a bomb. He finally exhaled. "Do you mind if I play some classical?" Emma peeked through the rearview mirror. "No, please." He selected a soft piano sonata. Notes drifted through the cabin, bridging gaps between living and lost. Lucas traced his finger over the window condensation, drawing a tiny heart. He turned and met William's eyes in the mirror, then traced another. William felt tears burn behind his eyes. He swallowed. He couldn't ruin this moment with words. He drove forward, the gravestone fading in the rear view. At a small cafe near the cemetery, they stopped. William ordered hot chocolate for Lucas and tea for Emma. He held the door as she stepped out. It felt like he was leading his family again, for the first time since Michael died. The three sat at a corner table. Lucas sipped his chocolate, watching William and Emma. They sat in tension, love and suspicion tangled together. William took a breath. "I want to hear everything about Michael, about Lucas, about what you said, Emma. Experiment, heart monitor. What happened?" Emma nodded. "Michael got sick, at work. He was secretly researching a heart condition. Congenital cardiomyopathy," she said. "He didn't tell your family. He was scared it'd scare investors. He was developing a sensor to protect him, to protect our child." William closed his eyes. Heart condition, secret, risk. He felt rage build, at himself, at Michael, at the company that drove them away. She continued, "He made a prototype, but it failed. The night before the crash, he said I could test it here with Lucas, that he trusted me to lay him to rest if it failed. I said no. He said yes." Tears fell. He rose next morning. William's breath caught. "He always wanted to protect you." Emma whispered. "I held him when he collapsed, right in the driveway. I called 911, but he never woke up." Memories exploded. William felt darkness crack open. "That night, I blamed the driver, the weather, the delay. I never asked the truth." He looked at Emma. "I should have known my son better." She didn't answer. She just looked away. Lucas glanced between them. He reached over, took William's hand. The touch was small, but it burned. The cafe was nearly empty. At the counter, an elderly barista watched sympathetically. She brought a second hot chocolate. "No charge," she whispered. William gave money, twice what the drinks cost. The barista nodded. The bell above the door jingled. A black SUV with tinted windows pulled away. William watched Lucas. He felt the world shift. By the time they drove away, rain had stopped, leaving slick shards of reflection on the pavement. William pulled the car toward a small park he used to visit with Michael. They got out and walked toward a bench under a giant oak tree. Lucas climbed onto the bench. Emma followed. William sat beside Lucas, resting an arm around him. They watched the ducks on a small pond. Still water. Hope mirrored. William's voice trembled. "Lucas, when you're ready, do you want to hear about your dad?" Lucas's eyes brightened. "Yes." William looked to Emma. She nodded, keeping tears at bay. He took a breath and began. "Your father was brave. Brilliant. He saw things I couldn't." The words opened floodgates. Michael's rebellion, his work on heart sensors, his love for Emma, his decision to keep Lucas close and explain him as proof. At one point, Lucas asked, "Will Daddy know I'm here?" William's throat nodding. "Yes, he does. I promise you, he does." Emma buried her face in her hands, sobbing softly now. William touched her arm gently, offering solace. Lucas leaned between them. They formed a triangle of hope against grief. After a long pause, William rose. "There's more," he said. He took Emma's phone. He dialed his assistant. He told her, "Cancel my afternoon meetings and arrange a DNA test, but treat it as personal. Proceed with caution." Emma gasped. "No." "Lucas deserves to know me too," he said firmly. Tears filled her eyes. She nodded. William turned to Lucas. "Would you like to come to my home tomorrow?" Lucas looked at Emma, who shuddered but nodded. He looked back at William. "Okay." William lifted him into his arms. It felt like the first time father and son had connected, but this time it was grandfather and grandson, and everything in between. They walked back to the car in silence, peaceful, hopeful, raw. William watched them as he drove. 1,000 questions buzzed behind his mind. Did Michael hide his illness because he didn't want business to interfere? Did anyone within his company know the experiment and want it gone? Was the crash an accident or sabotage? The rain-slick roads reflected his own uncertainty. That night, William stared at the ceiling of his bedroom, unused bed. It felt foreign. But beside him, a new life stirred. Tomorrow, Lucas would come home, and with him came questions. Is Michael's death shrouded in more than grief? What role did the company, William's empire, play in Michael's illness and death? And can a billionaire father heal a broken family? Or will the secrets he uncovers destroy them all? William turned his face toward the window. Rain washed again across the glass. He whispered in the darkness, "I promise, Lucas, we'll find out together." William Harrington couldn't close his eyes that night. He lay staring at the ceiling, replaying Emma's words until each syllable were etched in his soul. The revelation that Michael had died because of a failed prototype, his secret illness, the crash. It all swirled in a torrent that pulled at his heart and twisted his vision of his son. Mixed with this turmoil was the shock that Lucas was his grandson, raised without him, molded by grief he hadn't even known existed. When morning light crept through his blackout curtains, William was already awake. The weight of legacy pressed into his chest. At 7 a.m., he stepped onto the balcony of his penthouse, breathing in the city's hum. The skyline looked flat, muted, and he realized something deeper had been muted for years, the narrative of his son. He pressed a hand to the glass, tasting regret alongside the thin breeze. Later in his study, he summoned Emma and Lucas. The power dynamics felt awkward. Him dressed in tailored calm, Emma still in yesterday's grief, Lucas guarded and anxious. But William knew this meeting was necessary. The coffee steamed between them. Silence fell heavy. "Michael wanted this," he said, voice pulling the silence taut. Emma stared at her hands. Lucas picked at his sleeve. William reached forward, gently placing his hand over theirs. He left letters, journal entries, plans. "I have them now. Your son had a vision, to protect Lucas, and it was failing." Emma swallowed harshly. Tears glistened. "He asked me to continue the work. Michael believed his sensor could have saved him, but not soon enough. He recorded it all in a lab notebook." William's breath caught. "And?" She nodded. "He told me to finish it for Lucas's sake. I don't understand the science, but I have it." He stood abruptly. "Take me to it." They drove to Michael's old apartment, the place he lived when he was secretly researching, away from his father's empire. The hall smelled of stale cigarettes and ambition. In the living room, Emma handed William a faded lab notebook. Pages of calculations, diagrams, heartbreak scribed into every line. He read a passage. "If I can stabilize the sensor pulse, delayed at 32 weeks, if I can code it in polymer cells, it can detect arrhythmia, predict seizure, shut valves in response." His vision blurred. Michael had been so close. "Where's the prototype?" William demanded. Emma led him to the closet. Pulling aside jackets, she revealed a small metal box tangled in wires and dried blood. William knelt, breath trembling, his son's handwriting on the lid, prototype 4.2B. He opened it to find the sensor, misshapen and scarred but intact. He ran a gloved finger over a fine crack. Michael died in a car crash, but he survived this. Anger flared. He would have lived. The sensor would have worked. If he hadn't died, Emma bit her lip. He tested it at the clinic 2 weeks ago. Heart was stable, but the night before, his entry, valence node unstable. Risk of hemorrhage. I think he knew he was dying. He drove home anyway, to bring you together, to bring us together. William stared down, weakness coursing through him. Why keep it from me? Emma cleared her throat. Because Michael didn't trust you'd let him live his life, or maybe study this part. He said, every time you looked at him, I saw fear in his eyes that he'd disappoint you. The truth cracked him open. Not disappointment, fear. Emma continued, he told me, if anything happens to him, you should have his work, to finish for Lucas. William swallowed. Memories churned. A teenage Michael hiding code on his laptop, late nights in the lab. He never asked why. He assumed corporate projects. He never asked. He asked Emma softly, did you or Lucas ever try this sensor? She shook her head. No, I didn't. Not without you. I couldn't use it, without warning the company. William closed his fist around the notebook. Then we do it properly. We finish it. We run trials. We deliver what Michael almost did. For Lucas. Lucas looked up, uncertain. William shifted. Would you want that? The boy's face grew serious. I want to know my dad saved me. William's throat tightened. He nodded. Over the next week, they assembled a small team, top cardiologists, biomedical engineers. The first meeting was tense. William watched as Emma explained the work. He observed professionals asking tough questions. How do we validate the sensor? What about device rejection or false positives? Is there insurance approval? Emma answered, teary but composed. William intervened. My son died believing in this. We're going to see it through. No shortcuts. The room fell silent, respect tempered with urgency. Later, Emma pulled William aside. Without Lucas, I couldn't have come to you. Without you, I couldn't have built this team. William exhaled. We'll honor Michael's name. That night, alone at his desk, William opened the file on the accident. He requested the collision report. He dug into weather data. He found a troubling inconsistency. Skid marks didn't align with any known collision pattern. The car's brakes weren't applied. A nudge at high speed. Someone manufacturing the crash. His empire's resources flared into anger. Just then, his phone buzzed. A message from Emma. Prototype team ready to start. Your approval? He typed, finally, thank you. He added, but first, I need to know if my son's crash was no accident. Next morning at lunch, William met Emma and Lucas in the same cafe. Lucas had drawing books open. Emma hugged his shoulders. William slid into the booth watching them. Emma, he said softly, I think Michael's crash may not have been an accident. Her face drained. He leaned forward. But I won't do this without you. Without Lucas. She nodded, tears in her eyes. We'll face it together. As they parted, William left Emma with something heavy. Meet me tomorrow at the office. I've arranged for the accident data to be reviewed, and I want them to go after the insurance analysts. We can't ignore the possibility someone tried to bury this. Emma placed her hand over his. Do you think someone in the company? William's lips twisted. At this point, I don't know who, but I intend to find out. Lucas watched them, small face solemn. That night, William couldn't sleep again. His mind reeled, grief turned to purpose, but danger lay beneath. Had Michael's illness been exploited? Had someone erased his life? And could that someone put Lucas at risk? He stared at the rainfall batting against the window. He whispered into the darkness, we'll finish what Michael started, and we'll find the truth, no matter who pays the price. William replayed the drive up the narrow lane to Michael's old apartment, mind racing. The building's gray facade looked fragile against the stormy sky, its windows like empty, watchful eyes. Inside, the lock clicked, and Emma's hand shook as she inserted the key. They stepped into the entryway and shivered, not from the draft, but from the sense that they were intruding into Michael's private world, preserved in stasis. The apartment smelled of stale coffee, old books, and ambition. Every object held a memory. Emma moved through the rooms gently, whispering dates and small stories. Michael used to sketch on that desk, host friends here, pace during late-night coding sprints. Lucas trailed behind, whispering his own curiosity. William followed them like a ghost. In the living room, Emma opened the closet and pulled down the metal box with the prototype, laying it carefully on the coffee table. William knelt, eyes scanning faded labels, bloodstains, industrial grease. The prototype looked ominous, an elegant promise twisted with failure. He flipped it over. A sticker read, Prototype 4.2B, last tested Aug 12, 2015. The same day Michael flew home, never to rise again. A sudden creak in the bedroom felt intrusive. Emma paused, clearing her throat. This was his space. The door swung open into a small bedroom. A laptop, scattered notebooks with diagrams and handwritten notes, lay next to a framed photo of Michael holding Emma. Papers had fallen in a way that spelled heartbreak. William bent, reading a line. Heart failing again. If I crash before finishing, promise to complete for Lucas. Tightly wound in his chest, William felt betrayal. Why hadn't he known? He looked up and met Emma's tear-filled gaze. She swallowed, searching. He wrote it for me. For us. William stood, moving to the laptop. He powered it up. The screen flickered to life. Icons scattered, but one file stood out. Heart sensor, project final PPTX. His breath caught. Don't open that, Emma whispered. But William's hand hovered over the enter key. He clicked. The presentation loaded. Slide after slide flowed. Diagrams of polymer envelopes, pulsed microprocessors, sensor readouts. Emblazoned across the slides, clinical trial 3 outcomes. 80% stability. His heart thundered. Michael had succeeded. Almost. One final slide appeared. Obstacles, financial pressure, need for key approval from Harrington Enterprises. Prototype liability. The last words lingered. Q4 deadline or recall. He closed the file. Storm clouds rattled glass. Emma crossed the room, ushering Lucas toward the window. He was under pressure from your company, she said quietly. And he said if you didn't approve it, he'd go public. He wanted to protect Lucas. He believed in this sensor more than rebuilding your trust. William's chest constricted as thunder boomed. He looked at Emma, at Lucas, at the frozen moment in the apartment. Michael had been torn between loyalty to his father's business and loyalty to his own son. To both of them. Lucas tugged his sleeve. Is he my dad? William knelt, looking into Lucas's fearful eyes. Yes, he is. Lucas nodded, ran his small hand across the prototype's box. William and Emma exchanged looks. He always protected you. Silence lingered, pregnant and brooding. William's phone buzzed. The private investigator. A test result came back. Crash scene data. Skid marks inconsistent with testimony. Unusual wear on tire treads. Someone forced the car. Someone had tampered. William's jaw clenched. He looked at Emma and the censor, their son's confession, their inheritance of secrets and threats. They sat together in the half-lit apartment as rain hammered the windows. Emma held Lucas close. William stared at the laptop closed. The truth was alone with them, but now it felt alive. A character in their fragile triad, demanding action. He whispered, voice tight, Michael sacrificed his safety to save Lucas and to confront me. He left the censor, the files, his struggle with the company. It's all here. Emma's fingers stroked Lucas's hair. He wanted you to know the truth before he died. William breathed shallowly, torn between rage and regret. The sense of helmless direction returned. He needed to chart a course, even while grief snarled in his gut. Lucas stirred, asked quietly, will we finish it? William glanced at Emma, who nodded. Yes. The rain intensified. William pressed shut of laptop, stilling the storm of digital revelations. He slid off the precious box and notebook and wrapped them in a brown paper bag for safekeeping. He rose and looked around. The apartment, once a lab of love and loss, now felt like a starting point of betrayal and of redemption. He headed to the door. Emma and Lucas followed quietly. They stepped outside into sheets of rain. Water washed over them, but William felt something hardened inside him. Purpose. They headed for his car again. As they drove away, William stared ahead at wet pavement reflecting headlights like tears. The road stretched. It connected grief to vengeance, to healing, and to questions no one dared speak yet. Was the crash engineered by someone inside the company? And if so, who? Could the sensor be perfected? Or would it expire under corporate weight and legal risk? Would building it drag Emma, Lucas, and William into a war with powerful forces intent on silence? More importantly, could they survive together? Spiritually and literally, what comes next? The apartment grew dim in his rear view. Behind them, a war of conscience. Ahead, a race against time. They would finish what Michael had started, but with every truth unearthed, more shadows gathered. William stared down at the box on the coffee table, hands trembling. Inside were letters, Michael's voice from beyond the grave. Emma retrieved them one by one, laying them before William like sacred confessions. Lucas watched with wide, uncertain eyes. The first letter was dated June 1st, 2015. Dad, I'm sorry I couldn't tell you sooner. The sensor, it's working. I've tested it on myself. Pulse regulated during episode last night. I'm scared but hopeful. But the company wants me to abandon the project. They say it's too risky. They don't care about why I'm doing it. I care. For Lucas. And for you. If only you'd let me show you. William's chest convulsed. He exhaled raggedly. They? Abandon? His mind raced. Why would his own company turn on his son? Emma took the letter, voice cracking. He kept asking for your approval, but got none. Next letter, July 14th. Pop, today. Lucas laughed for the first time. I held him close. I want you to hold him too, someday. I want you to know him as your grandson, but I'm not sure if you will. I'm building this sensor so he survives. So he gets to laugh again tomorrow. Lucas's small hand grasped his grandfather's. William blinked back tears. His hope was in me, and I was absent. Then came a third letter, sealed and trembling with Michael's final ink. Dad, if you're reading this, I'm gone. I'm sorry. I tried until the last drop. I believed in our family. I believed you would see me as more than your heir. But I can't live in silence. There's one man who offered help, Edward Pierce, William's CFO. He said he could help fund the sensor, bypass corporate approval. I trusted him. He took my designs, then backed out. He told me to stop testing. I dismissed it. But tonight, my car. Edward was in the passenger seat when I left your home. Before I crashed. I don't blame him. But you should know. Finish it. Please, for Lucas. Love, Michael. William's world shattered again. This time with betrayal that cut deeper than sorrow. Edward Pierce, his CFO, his trusted second in command, he was there. William felt bile rise. Richard had broken his legacy, stolen his son's trust, perhaps engineered the crash. Emma reached forward. I didn't know. Michael never told me until just before. He feared it. He believed in you, but he feared you. William pressed his trembling fingers to the table. Rage, regret, grief, each twisted through him. We need proof, he rasped. Evidence Edward was there. The sensor blueprints. Everything. Emma nodded, hands shaking. I saved his laptop, the autosave folder. He told me to get it if anything happened. William grabbed his phone. Contact our legal team. Internal audit. PI on Edward's moves. His voice hardened. Also, we secure Michael's research. I want it locked down. He looked at Lucas. And for you, buddy, you deserve answers. That night, William returned to his private home office. He pulled Michael's laptop payment from Emma's bag. He opened it. A flurry of files, design folders, Kiad models, sensor code, his son's clinical notes, heart rate logs, test results. One folder stood out. Meeting minutes, Edward. He opened it. Meeting transcripts between Michael and Edward. Edward's tone was softly persuasive. Sit tight, Michael. Let me finish financing. We just need to delay another quarter. But something darker emerged. Edward's affidavit citing risk, legal exposure, insurance liability. He demanded Michael sign away IP rights. Michael refused. Edward's response? Then walk away. William scrolled further. An ominous message from Edward dated August 11th, evening of the crash. Michael, can you review tonight's draft? I'm at headquarters after hours. William's heart seized. Headquarters after hours? Why? A location tag in the metadata, the boardroom. Michael was there, late, alone with Edward. He leaned back, anger blazing. His son had been manipulated and maybe bumped. His phone buzzed. His assistant. Urgent call from Emma. He answered. She sounded calm but urgent. The legal team found anomalies in Edward's company card transactions. Large cash withdrawal the night Michael crashed. Another jolt. And, she whispered, the security footage from the Harrington driveway. Static, then a quiet gasp. Edward's car. His car is on camera. William felt the world tilt. His CFO had followed his son on the night his son died. William's hand went to his chest, his heart pounding. He closed the laptop, grabbed his jacket, texted Emma, meet me at 3 a.m. in the analysis room. I'm waking hounds. At 3 a.m., William strode into the high-security analysis room. Emma joined him, eyes bright but seizures of fear and resolve. They launched data, footage loops, credit card reports, emails. The video showed Edward's black sedan pulling into the driveway at 11:45 p.m. A man matching Edward's build exited the car and approached Michael's car when he was inside. The timestamp cut out at 11:52. No crash shown, just darkness. The credit card alert showed Edward withdrew $15,000 in cash from an ATM half a mile from their street. Signature, his. Purpose, emergency repair. They looked at each other. The pattern was undeniable. It was premeditated. They sat in silence, grief now kindled into resolve. Dangerous, urgent resolve. Then Lucas stirred in Emma's arms, his voice small. Mama? Grandpa? Emma wiped a tear. William knelt before them. Lucas, we're going to figure out what happened to your dad. We'll find justice. He looked to Emma, pain and determination in his gaze. We're not looking back. They left the analysis room as dawn cracked pale across the high-rise. William's suit jacket felt heavier now, burdened with questions, suspicion, fury. The empire he built had secrets, and betrayal lurked inside. William sat in the vaulted study, the coffin-like box of Michael's things spread across the leather desk. Papers, drawings, and that battered prototype begged for answers he hadn't yet confronted. But buried beneath the files was something else, another leather-bound notebook with no name. He flipped open the cover. It was Michael's handwriting. Among formulae and research notes, he found cracking whispers of their final months. Guilt, fear, desperate hope. Each page weighed him down, but one entry glared brighter than the rest, dated August 10th, 2015. Michael's hand scanned. Edward's upset I wouldn't sell. He said he'd make me regret this choice. I thought he meant withholding funds, but his tone, it wasn't business. It felt personal. I confronted him after hours in boardroom B. He stared at me, eyes cold. He told me flat, your time ends when I say it ends. I laughed, but his face didn't. William's head snapped up. His breath defined the moment. Edward Pierce had made a threat, not from a blue-lit warehouse, from inside the Harrington Empire. Emma hovered, silent and pale. Lucas clung to her skirt. He understood enough to know tension, though not the depth yet. William stared at the journal page, heart rattling. He knew, he whispered. This wasn't accidental. He flipped forward. Tear marks stained more entries. September 2nd, sensor tests show promise. Emergency prototypes to regulator next month. Edward asked to see them. I said I'd show Dad first. He stormed out. I didn't follow. Another entry, September 15th. My father noticed I was distant. I tried to ask him to look at sensor results. He said he was proud but busy. I can't let timing slip. Lucas needs this, and I need Dad back. The final entry, August 11th, just hours before Michael left. Met with Edward again. He was drunk. He slapped the table and yelled, "You'll regret this, Lee." Lee was his birth name. He said, "Do nothing and you'll be out. Do everything and you'll be dead." I left shaken. The sensor case is locked in a cabinet in my office. Dad should know, but I can't reach him. William closed the notebook, head throbbing. He'd missed everything. His son had tried to grab his attention. He'd looked away. He slammed his fist onto the desk. This ends. Emma stepped forward. I have a key to that cabinet. William exhaled. Then let's open it. In Michael's locked office, now William's, William and Emma stood before the walnut cabinet. Lucas waited outside, holding his toy car. William slid the key. The lock clicked. He pulled the door open. Inside, folders marked Sensor Final, sealed prototype boxes, and an encrypted hard drive. He pulled everything out, stacking them on the floor. Tangible proof of Michael's legacy and of Edward's hostility. Emma read folder names, sensor logs, regulatory config, Edward correspondence. She paled. William sank to one knee. He kept the sensor alive for Lucas, and he hid it in the company he worked for. His voice trembled. Rage and grief wrestled inside him. Emma touched his arm. Someone knew, or planned. William pocketed the notes. Evidence now. It's time to secure it. Make sure no one can destroy Michael's work. He stood. First step, forensic imaging of the hard drive. Then audio of Edward's threats. Then corporate memo introducing Michael's sensor. Emma nodded, determination etched on her face. I'll work with legal. Also, we should alert your board? William shook his head. Not yet. The mole could be anywhere. He paused. We need someone we trust outside the company. Emma's eyes glistened. My sister's with Homeland Security Cyber Division. She'll help. William exhaled. Good, let's get it done. That evening, William set the scene in the secure wing of the mansion. His sister-in-law, Agent Helen Caldwell, arrived in tactical attire. Her presence added a cooler atmosphere. Where's the gear? Helen asked. William handed her the hard drive and encrypted data. Prepping for forensic, also server logs from Boardroom B. We'll check network access. She sighed. This Dalton slip won't go unnoticed. You've got proof. William nodded. Helen pulled up seating for Emma and himself. We'll need your eyes, your presence, she said, addressing William. Edward is violent. The FBI is stepping in. Tension thundered through the room. Emma placed a hand on William's. Helen continued, we'll restore sensor files, also cross-check calls, and place phone taps. William left the room alone, in a hallway lit by moonlight. He placed a hand on the prototype box. The metal cold beneath his palm felt heavier than any burden. He whispered, Michael, I'm sorry. Days passed in a whirlwind. Helen's team uncovered auto-start traces, late-night logins by Edward's credentials. This wasn't hearsay, this was digital betrayal. Emma confronted Edward at work under police escort. He sneered. You're making a big mistake, he threatened. His face twisted with contempt. But his bravado crumbled when Helen pressed printouts of his communications. Edward froze. William watched from the corner. A storm of pain softened into resolve. Justice, not revenge. CSI dusted the sensor lab for prints. Helen reported back. Michael's fingerprints, Edward's prints on binding folder, but only on edges that touched nothing. He entered after Michael left. Another revelation. That night, William took Lucas to Michael's graveside, new sensor boxes at his feet. Emma circled behind, the prototype and files wrapped and sealed. Lucas placed a pebble, then touched the box. He did it for me, Lucas whispered. William knelt and hugged him. Then he addressed Michael Stone. Your father protected his son. Now your family will protect your work. We're not backing down. He looked at the sealed sensor case. We've got long road ahead, but we've started. But as they turned to leave, William's phone buzzed, a text from Helen. "We found something. It's not Edward alone." His blood froze. He dialed. Helen's voice came steady, but low. "We've tracked encrypted emails, sent the day before the crash, circulating sensor specs to an offshore account. The sender? A prost who reports directly to someone inside Harrington Board. Eddie didn't act alone." William's heart sank. A traitor higher up. A conspiracy bigger than Edward. Emma gasped. Helen continued, "There's a signature corporate seal from your own legal office." William pressed his forehead. Betrayal had deeper roots. His own board, his own people. Who in the Harrington Board has been leaking censor secrets? How deep did Michael's betrayal go? And does William dare expose the truth? Could there be others who wanted him silenced? And as they fight to protect a life-saving invention, are they lighting a firestorm that will consume the legacy and lives they hold dear? William's world spun beneath him, a traitor in his executive board, his own inner circle leaking secrets. The betrayal cut deeper than any collision. He paced the big glass office, rain streaking the city behind him like tears. Emma and Helen Caldwell stood in a high-tech operations room filled with monitors and encrypted chatter. They pulled up the keyboard log, pinpointed messages, financial transfers, timestamps. The offshore account got deposits, but logs traced back to an IP reserved for Victoria Harrow, Harrington's VP of Corporate Affairs and his most trusted confidant. He stared. The room went silent. Victoria, someone he mentored, the woman closest to uniting team and empire. And now the leak. He felt all the grief collapse into betrayal. Helen spoke softly. "She's the inside link. We have her traveling tomorrow on Harrington Air." He clenched his jaw. "We'll meet her in flight." Up before dawn, William boarded the jet ahead of everyone else. Emma and Helen followed, blending into personnel. Victoria arrived with marked calm, her posture regal, expression neutral. He waited until the door closed, then confronted her mid-cabin. "Victoria, we need to talk." She set her paper coffee cup down. "William, you know the moment one accuses another of treason, you lose more than trust." His eyes locked. "You transferred sensor data and indirectly threatened my son's life." Her lips tightened. "They appealed to me. They said the censor would turn your company into a liability." He inhaled. He recognized that phrase, word for word from last August's board minutes, before Michael's crash. They were still reading minutes, not acting. "And Edward?" he pressed. Victoria's face betrayed her. "He pointed the way. He's a pawn like the rest. But he needed permission. Your board approved it." He slammed his fist on the armrest. Her gaze didn't waver. Michael's ambition threatened more than one legacy. He realized he'd underestimated. Anger roared. She stood. "You'll talk to the board. You'll consider removing Pierce. But don't make me a scapegoat." Helen moved in. "Victoria, sir, based on this flight, we're initiating federal takeovers." Her face hardened. "You'll regret this, William. He knew before he died." The pilot flicked on lights announcing descent. Victoria's final shot. "Don't expect me to fall for your public crucifixion." She left. He exhaled hard. Back in the operations room, Helen traced power grid logs. Victoria and board members conspired on camera feeds, email chains, midnight sessions. Lines of betrayal illuminated before him. He nodded. "Tag them, public or private. I choose justice." Emma touched his arm. Lucas watched him. "Your confrontation." His face softened. "I promised him truth." Helen stepped in, and now we face consequences. Shackles, arrests, Sept investor recalls. He closed his eyes. "Then we do it." That night, William called an emergency board session. Directors arrived, surprised, cameras outside. He looked at each, one by one. "I'm here to expose corruption," he began. A murmur erupted. "Victoria Harrow is under federal investigation. You're implicated." They gasped. People who once nodded now trembled. William continued, "Edward Pierce is fired. The sensor prototype is Harrington's. We will finish it and bring justice. A powerful file display showcased emails, Victoria's denial, Helen's proof. Board members recoiled. Then he dropped the shock bomb. I will resign as interim CEO if necessary, but this empire must stand on truth. Silence spread. One director erupted. You're destroying the brand. William stared. No, I'm saving it. The protester relented. Others shifted. He watched their faces, guilt, fear, relief. Ending the meeting, William closed the laptop. The board would prosecute. The empire would not crumble. At home, he found Emma and Lucas asleep on the couch. He placed the prototype box beside them. He kissed Emma's forehead, raw gratitude in his eyes. He carried Lucas upstairs and tucked him into bed. Lucas murmured, Papa, did they do the right thing? William stroked his hair. We did. He left the door open. A simple chord of hope. Morning came soft. William's phone lit with headlines. Harrington Empire purges corruption. Billionaire father fights for legacy. Social media buzzed. Respect surged. For truth, not wealth. He sat at breakfast with Emma. She asked softly, what happens now? He paused, tracing his coffee swirl. Now we finish the censor, we honor Michael, and we protect Lucas. She reached for his hand. All of us together. His next move, secure quiet tabs on Victoria's offshore funds. Helen reported arrests set for 48 hours. The censor will go into phase 2 trial next week. FDA collaboration pending. Board members shift toward transparency. His outline, quarterly Q&A, restoring trust. But as Victoria's private jet taxied out, she spoke to someone on speaker. He thinks he's won, but he played into our hands. The censor, it's worth more dead. William's jaw locked with ice. The final camera shot. William gazing from his skyscraper window, Thomas Leary's gravestone could be heard echoing behind. We stand for truth. Then his phone buzzed. Another alert. Asset seizure from a shell account linked to Victoria. He closed his eyes and murmured, this was never just business. Who else in the empire has been plotting behind the scenes, and what will they do now? Can the censor survive when its value exceeds the profits of the entire company? Is Victoria's warning true, and is someone ready to kill to bury the censor? And can William protect Emma and Lucas before the darker players strike? William woke before sunrise. A restless haze carried over from last night's explosion at the board meeting. His empire had survived, but the war had only just begun. Now he must hunt down every ghost from Michael's past and secure the censor before a darker force buried it forever. He strode into the tactical command center set up in his mansion's basement. Screens glowed with surveillance feeds. Airport cameras, vehicle trackers, secure bank logs. Emma stood beside Helen, scanning shipping records. Lucas hovered near the edge, confusion flickering behind his sleepy eyes. William bowed his head and promised, we'll make this right. His first mission, track Victoria Harrow. Helen pored over the activity logs. No flight plan, untraceable direction. Then a flash. A corporate hopper reappeared in rural Kentucky near a private elk ranch where Victoria might have met partners. William issued orders. We fly in 2 hours. He turned to Emma. You staying with Lucas? She nodded, his heart clenched. Protecting his family meant sending them away from danger's eye. He kissed her hand. 2 hours later, William, Helen, and a small security detail landed at the ranch. Fog tangled through narrow stone paths. They slipped through barns and stables until they heard raised voices, electronic tones, rifling through papers. William crouched behind hay bales as Helen disinfected a feed room for surveillance. Through the crack, he saw Victoria pacing across a pitch-black barn, silver-haired and resolute. She answered a call, not to Edward, but to someone else. The code hasn't leaked yet. It will eventually. VIP investor is interested. China, Europe. We get the censor costs down. Patent leaks protect us. When Harrington falls, we profit. William's blood froze. Another investor, another leak. International collusion. Victoria clicked her heels, tiptoeing into darkness, and a second voice answered through the speaker, muted. William pressed a cold hand to his mouth. These were the players willing to trade lives for patents. They captured the audio feed and withdrew silently. Back home, William confronted Victoria with evidence. She didn't deny it. Instead, her voice slithered. You're fighting a storm you can't survive. Your priorities, family, is what makes you weak. You're all talk, William. I'm all action. He edged forward. You're criminal. She smiled. Maybe, but I'm not the enemy storing the sensor under my name. William's jaw tensed. She'd admitted the leak. She'd named global conspirators, but withheld the final blueprint. She warned him for the last time. That night, William tested internal alarms. But someone smuggled embedded malware into sensor files. Someone still inside. He called his chief technology officer to disable external access. CTO stopped it mid-loop. I can't. It's encrypted deeper than I. Someone installed it during merger last fall. His chest constricted. Sabotage layered in the code. Someone anticipated his retaliation. It wasn't just Victoria. It was a faction in the empire itself. Morning arrived with fresh blood, an anonymous tip sent to FBI. Phone number, ports, encrypted transaction trail to Victoria's offshore. Media seized it. Empire in open chaos, one headline read. William stepped onto the executive balcony under press lights. He announced a full forensic audit. No mention of sensor specifics. He would control the narrative. Cameras flashed. His face remained stoic. Back inside, Emma hugged Lucas. Daddy's okay, she whispered. Lucas nodded but looked pale. Night fell again. They locked the house. William let down his guard long enough to eat pasta he didn't taste. Emma watched him. You'll need help, she said. He stared at the empty dining room. I have to do this alone. Their reprieve lasted 5 minutes. The front door exploded inwards. Security scrambled. Gunfire erupted. William dove for cover. In the chaos, a masked attacker charged toward Emma and Lucas. William shot him twice. He collapsed, unmasked. It was one of Victoria's men. Emma grabbed Lucas and fled. William rushed into the foyer. The intruder lay bleeding, but nothing else stolen except the sensor prototype. The sharpest blow yet, they hit his heart. The next morning, William awoke in his study, bruised but alive, staring up at ceiling beams. The sensor case lay open and cold. Gone. Emma watched him rise. They understood the stakes now. He clenched his fists. They want this gone. He gazed at Emma and Lucas. They want me alive and broken. William launched a global hunt. Asset seizure on offshore accounts. FBI raid on the barn. A national alert. Sensor prototype missing. Victoria went silent. William traced the weapon's serial number. It led to a black market contact in Miami, since Canada. William boarded a flight the next morning, leaving behind his trembling family. On the plane, he watched the ocean shrivel below. His phone pinged with intel. Victoria's personal jet landed in Reykjavik. She was hiding with global buyers. Their window was closing. He stared into darkness. Losing the sensor meant losing everything. Truth, legacy, Michael's dream. The final scene shows William boarding the VIP jet that will take him to Iceland. As the engines roar, terror and determination pulse in his eyes. His final text to Emma reads, "Don't move, I'll come back, with it." Will William recover the sensor, or will it vanish into black market shadows? Who else in the empire is complicit? And how deep does this go? Can they protect Lucas and Emma if the conspiracy hits closer to home? And what happens when the sensor becomes currency for the most dangerous elements on Earth? William pressed his forehead against the curved window of the private jet as it descended toward Reykjavik. The ocean below was a vast mirror, reflecting moonlight and mounting dread. Inside, Helen Caldwell tapped into encrypted messages on her laptop, piecing together a web that led right back to Harrington's boardroom and beyond. Emma sat quietly in the seat behind them, Lucas gently asleep in her arms. William closed his eyes, breath catching. His family, his son's inheritance, hung in balance. The jet touched down in the silent airport. William stepped onto the tarmac, flanked by discreet security, and walked through the terminal toward a waiting SUV. Helen fell in beside him. "They've moved the prototype again," she said quietly. Victoria is now with offshore buyers. They're keeping it on a private island called Grimsey, 30 miles north. William's jaw tightened. Grimsey, a no-man's zone, lawless, perfect hiding place. If he didn't recover that sensor, Michael's work would become a weapon, sold to the highest bidder. He climbed into the SUV and looked over at Emma. Her face was pale but fierce. "I need them safe," he whispered. Helen nodded. "I know. We'll secure you a place until this ends." The SUV roared away. They reached the coast. A sleek yacht waited. William boarded, tension radiating from every muscle. Beneath the deck, Helen and a small team swarmed with tactical gear. William placed a hand on Emma's shoulder. "Stay here," he said softly. "I'll be back." Emma nodded. She clutched Lucas closer, herself preparing for the worst man has to say 1,000 times. Above the glass walkway to the yacht's deck, William found the helipad. His helicopter skidded over the water toward Grimsey in the dead of night, engines screaming into the black. On board, William scrolled financial intel, transactions showing millions wired. A battalion of security men would meet them. They were likely heavily armed. A sensor prototype with the ability to save lives, or end them, would be considered a prize worth killing for. The pilot's voice crackled. They were 15 minutes out. Grimsey's shore emerged, jagged cliffs and a lighthouse still standing guard. The helicopter circled, descending onto rocky terrain. William feared each second. Every footfall echoed in his mind like a death sentence. He exited the chopper and moved behind Helen's tactical team. She pointed ahead, industrial huts, small piers, a metal cargo container marked HE, likely hidden shipment from Harrington. He knelt and saw sensor parts peering through a crack. His heart pounded. His son's work, spread across steel frames. One wrong move, they could collapse the whole battlefield. A flash lit the sky, lightning revealing guards, 2 of them. William cocked his shoulder, raised his voice in coordination with Helen's radio. "Team go," she barked. Men sprang forward. Gunshots echoed through the narrow island, shrapnel tapping the containers. William sheltered behind them, adrenaline stinging. He peeked and saw guards returning fire, armored, relentless. He clenched a fist. "For Michael." He darted forward, caught phrases in their native tongue. American billionaire, voices mocking him. His pulse seared. He moved with purpose, each step through gunfire drawing him closer to that container. He reached the container door and pushed. The innards were lit only by stolen flashlight beams. Inside, on steel pallets, lay the sensor. The sensor. He rushed forward, hands trembling as he lifted the case. A shout. Another guard flanked toward him. He felt a blow to the arm. He staggered, but he didn't fall. He opened the case and froze. There were 2 prototypes inside, the one Michael started, with wires badly frayed, and a second model, sleek, encrypted, unbranded. State-of-the-art, not Michael's. Someone had made a newer version. Someone else had finished it for profit. He picked it up. Fingerprints, Victoria's, Edwards, others, damned from spectro reads. He pocketed Michael's original, but held the new model outward. Camera. A silent roar in his mind. They built on my son's work and sold out to the highest bidder. Gunfire erupted. Helen's team took down the assailant. William shoved the case into a tactical bag. They sprinted through the crates, out onto the pier. Waves crashed against concrete. Their retreat helicopter hovered 5 feet off the docks. William dove inside, draggy and gasping. He looked at the painting on that sensor, sleek, perfect, dangerous. Above the chopper, he stared at the stormy sea. He held the secret of Michael's legacy, half broken, half weaponized. Below deck, Emma embraced him. He felt her trembling, hers and Lucas's. She opened her bag. In her hand, a USB drive Helen slipped her earlier. "The encrypted manifest," Helen said. "It shows investor stake, purchase schedules, secret bidders. It implicates people in China, Russia." William swallowed. He flicked it open. Cloud of names, contracts, logistics, transaction chains, black ops teams. The prototype wasn't just a medical breakthrough. It was a geopolitical weapon. And his family was at the center. Back on home ground, William confronted Victoria. through a secure video. Victoria watched from a luxury penthouse. He leveled her a glare. "You built it," he said softly. She leaned back. "I finished what Michael couldn't, and I profited." He raised the second sensor. "You sold my son's legacy to the highest bidder." She sighed. "That thing?" She picked up a champagne glass. "That's control. You had the luxury of grief. We had profit." He placed the mic to the sensor, pressed playback. A voice, Michael's. "If it saves one life, it's not a business." Victoria trembled. The playback broke her. His voice dropped. "Did you even care why Michael built it?" Her eyes filled. She looked away. He would have loved control, in theory. That night, William packed the sensor into an armored vault. His home felt like a fortress. Emma peeked. He handed her Michael's prototype. "He's still in this," he whispered. Emma traced his face with her gaze. "We did it." But William shook his head. They turned to Lucas. He slept along a couch, clasping a stuffed lion with Barry's face. William bent and kissed his forehead. He stared down at the sunrise across the yard. The sensor was home, but so were the guns in the vault. The security team now patrolling. The whispers had grown. It wasn't over. A buzz from his phone broke the dawn. A news alert. Harrington's heir saving sensor, but allegations grow. Espionage, geopolitical tensions, plague international medical markets. William sighed. Then another text from Helen. More data on buyers, affiliations within biotech and defense sectors. Need your direction. He stared at the case again. Who funded the secret second prototype? Was it governments? Defense corporations? Biotech giants? Will William use Michael's sensor to shift power? Or will the hidden investors stop at nothing to keep it? Can the sensor be used for good while the secrets of its creation become political weapons? And can William truly keep his family safe as long as betrayal stalks his empire and his home? William stood at the edge of his rooftop terrace, midnight breeze rattling the city lights below like distant fires. The sensor prototype lay in a frost-lined armored case on the table at his side. He stared at it through the glass, heart pounding. Overnight, everything had shifted. It wasn't just corporate sabotage or international deals. It was a ticking time bomb of moral and geopolitical fury. Emma appeared behind him, her voice low. They launched a smear campaign this afternoon. Biotech outlets are calling it espionage. They're accusing Harrington Enterprises of weaponizing healthcare. William turned, pulling her into his arms. They'll never understand what Michael wanted. She closed her eyes, resting her head on his shoulder. But the world is listening. Inside his private nerve center, Helen, security chiefs, and legal advisors tracked real-time responses. Stock plummeting. Wall Street murmurs, demands for congressional hearings. The firestorm was here, and William ignited it himself by going public. Earlier that day, he had held a global press conference streamed live. The sensor prototype is not a weapon, it's a lifeline. The stock wobbed, reactions sliced across social media. Investors whispered fear or defiance. Governments stepped in. As he addressed the press, he saw cameras catch Lucas at Emma's side, wide-eyed. He stifled guilt. Post-press conference, William convened a war room. Helen said, "We secured the original sensor, but the second prototype remains missing. Intel shows it's being prepped for export." Emma slammed her palm on the table. "Luke's health, his insurance, our safety, we're in the crosshairs." "This isn't about science anymore," William replied. "It's a fight for legacy, for truth." They debated releasing Michael's research publicly to force transparency, but risked patent theft or bioterror. The stakes exploded. That night, William was at his study when his phone vibrated. A threatening text. "Stop now or we'll take more." No signature, just a warning. He stared at the screen. Could hear Lucas's laughter in the adjacent room. He tapped back. "You missed the moment." Meanwhile, Emma had kept Lucas on lockdown. They sat at breakfast under the safe house protocol. Lucas's favorite pancakes blocked windows, security whispers overhead. She looked at him and sighed. "Your puppy looks better today." Lucas turned the toy lion, imitating its growl. I like superheroes. Emma hugged him. You already are one. At that moment, William entered. He crouched beside him. Remember, buddy, heroes don't wait until they're unafraid. Lucas nodded, trusting cosmic guidance. As they spoke, Helen arrived with breakthroughs. One, a mid-level biotech firm registered a sensor derivative, same code signature, filing under defense application. Second, Victoria Harrow had boarded an unidentified aircraft last night bound for Europe. Third, encrypted financial transfers showing Edward Pierce wired funds into shell accounts in offshore tech labs. All coordinates pointing toward the missing prototype. William exhaled. They're going global. He donned his coat. I leave tonight. A few frantic hours later, he landed in Brussels. Rain hid the city's grandeur. He moved through deserted VIP lounges toward a meeting arranged by trusted agents, a director from the World Health Organization and a senior EU biotech lawyer. They waited in a nondescript conference room. William stepped in. Simon from WHO glanced up. You risked everything, he said quietly. Are you ready to protect your son, the world, or do you fold? William locked eyes. I'm not leaving with the prototype or my family until I get the second back and take down everybody involved. Simon nodded. We'll support transparency, but you need proof the new prototype works as he intended. Then they can't argue weaponization. William laid the sensor on the table. Then we need a live demonstration. The lawyer hesitated. That would be historic or catastrophic. William nodded. Both. Back in the hotel later, William couldn't sleep. The phone rang. It was Helen. They intercepted encrypted chatter. New prototype being moved tomorrow to Zurich Tech Fair. Not for sale, but demonstration. Elite investors only. A fair in 2 days. Thousands of eyes. William's blood roared. That afternoon, Emma and Lucas arrived in Brussels. Border crossing was tense. Lucas held Emma's hand tight under airport lights. William watched them from afar before stepping forward with vulnerability. Your father's going to need help. Emma nodded. We'll stand together. They checked into a secure suite. Emma placed Lucas to bed. She kissed William's forehead. Promise you'll come home. He closed his eyes. I promise. That night, William convened with WHO and EU liaison. They set up a covert demo. They would stream the sensor stabilizing a heart model under live microscopy. No leaks, no leaks. The room buzzed. Morning Tech Fair Day, VIPs assembled, biotech angels, defense attachés, and shadowy investors. They moved into a private method room. William entered with trembling composure. He introduced the premise, proof of life-saving. He unsealed the prototype. The room still. Under microscope, they set up a cardiac model. The sensor beeped. Under gentle arrhythmia, it triggered stabilizers. Silence, then nods. William held his breath. This is what my son built. He eyed the crowd, and what I risked my life to protect. Applause was sparse but heavy. Some faces softened, others closed off. No one walked away. William exhaled. He had it. That evening, flights booked, they have what they needed. But as he left, 2 suited men stepped into his path. Mr. Harrington, one said calmly, you performed admirably, but consider carefully. We know who you are. We know who you protect. Let them remain unseen. Return the prototype or consequences. William squared his shoulders. You threatened a child. They paused, then left. William's blood rolled. He texted Emma. They're holding my next plane. Won't make it home tonight. She replied, we'll wait. In his suite, William opened whiskey. He poured 2 glasses, sat and stared at the leather case. He thought of Michael's voice. If it saves one life. He closed his eyes. He texted Helen. Transfer sensor to secure bank vault tomorrow. Notify agent contact. Then, I'm coming home. That night, Brussels erupted in ambush. Victoria Harrow and Edward Pierce were arrested across Europe. Simultaneous police raids. Pressure reports. International scandal resignations. Helen's voice crackled. You triggered the release. You're cleaning house. William leaned back, letting relief wash through. But before closure, he called Emma. His voice, soft but certain. We did it. She waited. Yes, but be safe. He closed his eyes. Threats were neutralized, but adventure remained. He whispered, I know. Who were the shadow investors threatening William, and what will they do with the second sensor? Will Michael's sensor be used globally or locked away by governments for control? And now that Victoria and Edward are exposed, who in Harrington's circle remains loyal? And who will betray next? Most urgent, can William protect his family as he returns home? When darker forces may have eyes on their safety. William stepped off the private jet, eyes sharp beneath the airport blur. Brussels behind him, grief ahead. As he swept past the terminal, he saw Emma waiting, arms open. In her embrace, Lucas, cheeks flushed with excitement. But behind that smile, quieter worry. William knelt and hugged them hard. We're home, he whispered. But home had changed. Back in the penthouse, press blitz gave way to silence. TV screens dimmed. Emma checked locks. William stared out at city lights, grateful but uneasy. He hadn't expected that. Helen joined them with breaking intelligence, a compromise. Someone tried hacking the family security grid 2 nights ago. No alert, hidden code word. Perseus, ancient hero who faced betrayal. William paled. In the morning, they walked through the mansion. Each door felt like a checkpoint. William pressed his palm on Lucas's shoulder. You'll be safe, he said, but didn't know yet if he believed it. They gathered in the study. William powered on his laptop. Helen displayed heads up. A port in the basement was triggered. A hidden timestamp. Perseus code inserted. The intruder bypassed broken cameras using federal override. Equipment only Senior Harringtons had. William stared at Emma. He was in the house, she whispered. They left Lucas with guards. They went downstairs. Poles of lead-eyed lights swept the space. Bare footprints traced a path from the server hub to the elevator shaft. William followed. His heart throbbed. Whoever was here, they wanted us, not just the sensor. At the server rack, Helen found tampered files. Surveillance around Lucas's room had been disabled. Wall and door cameras hacked. They'd spied on his sleep. A parent's nightmare. Before noon, William received a letter in a leather folder. No name, just parchment edges and his name. And one sentence, welcome home, Mr. Harrington, we've missed you. Signed, Perseus. No phone, no firepower, just a message. William's blood froze. Perseus, the same code from the hack. It was a message, and they were still inside. That afternoon, Emma hosted a meeting with William's security chief Forsyth and Helen. They uncovered whispers, video logs showing the intruder had a Von Harrington ID. Blueprints allowed someone inside. Father, uncle, cousin. They didn't know yet. William balled his fist. Someone in the family wants us scared. Or dead. Forsyth spoke quietly. We need to isolate cameras, check for duplicate keys, biometric logs. Also block all network ports. Reboot. Emma studied the maps of motion sensors in the child's wing. We put a silent watcher in Lucas's room so I can feel him breathing. Helen nodded. No one gets close without Elaine seeing. That night, William hosted a private dinner for his closest few. Helen, Emma, Forsyth. Even Lucas asked to be there, safe near his mother. William held the Perseus letter. He spoke low. I believe this is about control, not death. Whoever did this wants us unsettled. Makes flush decisions easier. Forsyth set a tray of encrypted drives on the table. Everyone in this room typed full reset codes to protect sensor IPs. But if one wants to leak, they could. So we're locking down offline archive. No one outside tonight knows sensor's location. Helen looked up. Mr. Harrington, we've traced Perseus's hack path. Origin near your grandfather's old cottage. Now owned by your cousin, Michael Vaughn. Gasps, William went pale. Michael, Vaughn's family haven? Not my father's. They're not Sarah's side. Emma touched his arm. Security flagged Vaughn's cell phone pinged near the cottage last night. William closed his eyes. A cousin he had barely considered. Now traitor? Lucas yawned. Emma scooped him away. William stayed behind. His eyes sold emotion. Betrayal. Not just corporate, but blood. Next morning, William visited the cottage alone, built of stone, long neglected, with moss creeping up the walls. He pounded the door, felt it shudder under his fist. He entered. Inside, dust motes hovered. Cameras installed? A footprint in dirt. He followed to the old office. On the antique desk lay files, blueprints of sensor predistribution. Next to them, a list of prices. To Beijing, 50 milers. To Riyadh, 40 milers. Typed. Someone had already sold the sensor's design. A distress ignited in him. His son's work. Auctioned across world. At that moment, phone buzz. Emma. She had Lucas safe, tears in her voice. They hacked again. Around midday. The wakes show a signal, ping near. He listened. Our own power grid, 238V, right under the house. He went cold. He was being cornered. William left the cottage and rushed home. The skies had opened. Rain pounded. Inside, motion detectors triggered. Video feed showed a man in suit entering elevator. ID pinned. Michael Von Harrington. Face obscured. He gasped. It's him, family. He was facing off against kin. He rushed up to Lucas's wing. Lights flashed red. Door locked behind him. Motion. No intruder. A draft from the open window. Wind had blown it open. No sign of forced entry, but the camera, offline again. He closed the window, checked camera logs, saw ping on the server. Helen had traced it to the cottage, still active, pings mapped to a laptop inside. He realized the plan. They'd drawn him away, hacked in, wired brains to create fear. But they hadn't taken Sensor yet. They just wanted leverage. William sank into the chair, heart racing. He scanned the room. He then made a blistering decision. Time to strike. He walked outside onto the terrace. Rain had stopped. He stared at the city lights. He raged, Perseus, you're watching. Enough. He pulled his phone and locked coordinates of the cottage. He'd confront betrayal as family only after securing Lucas. He turned back inside. Emma appeared at his side. Her eyes locked to his. What will you do? He looked down at Lucas's door. I will bankrupt him, expose him, and strike out his name, and I will make Perseus, named killer, irrelevant. Emma nodded, tears silently. Is Michael Vaughn truly behind the attacks, or is Perseus using his identity? What does the dark ledger of offshore deals inside the cottage reveal, and how deep does this family corruption run? Will William expose the family betrayal or destroy his cousin to protect the censor and his son? And most chilling, when Perseus realized William was coming, did they already move Lucas? Is the child safe? William stood in the central hall of his mansion, tension vibrating in the air. He watched Emma cradle Lucas, their eyes locked in fierce solidarity. They had uncovered betrayal, smuggled sensor prototypes across continents, and exposed intruders in their own halls. But tonight, everything would come to an end. Helen stepped forward, tablet in hand. I've traced all suspicious activity, Vaughn's laptop, transaction logs, offshore shell accounts. They converge here, Harrington Industries' private wing, and, she paused, some devices are still live. William took a breath. The wing that housed the censor, his son's legacy, was vulnerable, and they were surrounded by secrets and traitors. Tonight, he said slowly, voice calm but steel hard, we finish this. For Michael. For Lucas. For truth. They moved toward the private wing, escorted by Helen and Forsyth's elite security team. The mansion's guards shut off public areas, isolating the zone. William's heart pounded. The final confrontation was close. Just before the door, Emma squeezed William's hand. We'll stand together. Lucas looked between them, clutching a new stuffed lion. William whispered, good night, buddy. He kissed his son on the forehead. Grandpa's going to finish this. Lucas nodded sleepily as he was escorted away with Emma. The wing hallway lit in low amber lights. Security cameras flashed overhead. William, Helen, and Forsyth paused. At the end of the corridor, the locked sensor vault stood silent behind a reinforced glass. But there, footprints, fresh, forced lock. Someone had tried to break in again. Stay back, Forsyth warned, stepping forward with a puncture-proof baton. William's breath deepened. Helen read aloud encrypted logs. The last access attempt came 2 hours ago. And, she said softly, we have video. She tapped her tablet. Indistinct figure. But we have the door badge used. Vaughn's ID. William's heart fell. The traitor was family. He walked to the vault door. Open it. Forsyth entered codes. Helen's touchscreen glowed. The vault door ground open. Inside, the armored case held Michael's original sensor, untouched. But the second prototype was gone. William's vision narrowed. Someone was pulling pieces from his family, intending to break him. He stuffed the original sensor into his suit coat. He turned to the corridor. Suddenly, alarms exploded. Red lights flashed. Doors slammed shut. A masked figure in the hallway with a gun, now silhouetted. Another round fired. William lunged. The figure fired again. Forsyth tackled him to the ground. A brief struggle, the mask ripped off, revealing cousin Lucas Vaughn. A shocked gasp echoed through halls. Lucas Vaughn spat out blood around a tooth. It was never supposed to be empty, he growled. The sensor belongs to those who pay. William stared, blood drained. You sold it. You buried Dad's legacy. He slammed his fist. Why betray family? Lucas stumbled back, anger blazing. Harrington takes everything. Profit, power. We strain for crumbs in your empire. I had it. All the sensor secrets. I could replace you. William stepped forward. You nearly got my son kidnapped. You attacked me in my home. Lucas shook his head. I tried, but I am your blood. We deserve to share. You took Father's love and Michael's inheritance. Helen grabbed his arm. Let go. Forsyth held Lucas down. William looked at his cousin with sorrow and fury. You betrayed family for greed? Lucas spat. I betrayed you because you never saw me, not like Michael. William's voice cracked. I tried to see you, but you stayed hidden. Used me. You took the sensor to leverage control, not protect life. Lucas lunged for William, who backed off but held firm. You and your media spin. I'm sick of excuses. Helen aimed her weapon. Stop it. Lucas glared. Take me in. Lock me up. But the truth is out. Smart lives are currency now. Your empire will crumble. He spat again. You're soft. Forsyth cuffed him. Police sirens filled halls. William stared at his cousin's face, cold yet broken. I loved you, I still do. But tonight you chose wrong. They secured Lucas Vaughn and removed him. William slumped into a chair before the vault. Helen handed him coffee. He looked at Helen. Was there any sensor left? Helen shook her head. No traces, but we found plans on Vaughn's laptop, prototype number 3 in development. William closed his eyes. We lost the market, but not the path. Outside the wing, Emma met him with Lucas, his son. Lucas Harrington hugged his grandfather, sensing tension. William knelt. Lucas, everything's going to be okay. Things will be different, but safe. We'll make sure Daddy's work helps people, starting with us. Lucas nodded sleepily. Emma stood close. You did it. William locked his gaze on her. We did it. We saved Michael's sensor and our family. At dawn, they announced prosecutions. Lucas Vaughn arrested for attempted theft and hacking. Evidence shared with authorities. Official Harrington statement, family stands for truth. News headlines read, family feud ends in favor of legacy. Helen confirmed international task forces recovered prototype number 3 plans from secret lab. Replicas seized. A week later, William looked out from the rooftop. Wind hushed, city awake, but calm. Emma stood nearby, holding Lucas's hand. He turned to her. The sensor goes into clinical trials. Michael's name on it. Nonprofit funding. Open source license. She smiled through tears. That's how he wanted it. Lucas tugged William's sleeve. Papa, remember superhero story? William hugged them both. Always, buddy. They remained there, 3 figures in dawn's golden glow. Their storm passed, but legacy just marking beginnings. Thank you for joining William, Emma, and Lucas on this journey of grief, betrayal, and redemption. If this story moved you, hit like, share with friends who love emotional tales of family and truth, and subscribe for more cinematic narratives that dive deep into the human heart. Your support guides us to bring more stories worth telling, one chapter at a time.